What's up, everybody? This is Louis Kanya, Red Pill Sleeper Cell with Ali McBride with part two of our ongoing conversations. Um, I'm about to present something that Ali had a interview with, and what was the lady's name, Ali?
Her name is Dr. Arikana Chihambori Kwao.
Okay, we're going to view that before we proceed with our discussion. So just stand by while we play this.
Not that have with the Africans outside of it is that we don't understand what happened. That the fact that we endured enslavement, but the continent endured colonization. So there's a dual issue.
And at the end of the day, same animals.
Same animal. It's the same exact. Absolutely. So we're talking about the French on the end of some of the quote unquote francophone countries. Because I heard what you said, they're not francophone countries, right?
Yeah, no such thing.
No such thing. Exactly. So I share that you can't blame the continental Africans that come here for that issue. There's two. They went inside their homes and did what they did. They took us away. So it's different, but it's the same exact thing. But we're starting to understand it because you were selected as our person of the year. But we selected the president of Ghana as the person who was able to go up against adversity because he's the one who spearheaded the year of return for the most part. So Nigeria has the door of no return. Of return. Benin has the gate of return. So we're starting to see the connections. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
And the lies were intentional.
Yes.
To keep us from liking each other.
Yes.
So we can continue to hate each other, blame each other. But it was the same evils. My book is going to be coming out soon.
Beautiful.
Africa 101.
Absolutely.
And it's really more of what I've been talking about, but expanded a little bit. To give somebody an overview of Africa.
Yes.
Where we started and where we are and where we need to go. In a nutshell. So everybody can get an easy reading book. But when you finish reading it, you have a pretty good idea of where Africa is. And if you want to expand your reading from that,
absolutely,
you have a reference point.
Yes, ma'am.
To begin to understand exactly what's going on. The carnage that continues today.
Yes, ma'am.
The massacres, blatant ordering of complete annihilation of
yes,
tribes.
ma'am. That's right.
It's not in the history book.
Exactly.
If it's in the history book, it's a small paragraph.
Right.
And it's not even the realities of what actually happened.
Absolutely.
I mean, people were killed.
Right.
The same atrocities that were going on here,
yes,
they were going on in Africa.
Absolutely.
And people don't know that.
Right.
But it's our history, and we need to tell it our way.
Absolutely.
And that's what has kept us from being united.
Right.
It was also done to keep us divided.
Yeah.
There is a resolution, I'm told, I've not seen it, in the U.S. Congress that said unification of the African Americans with their brothers and sisters on the continent should be avoided by all costs.
Well, what they said, you know who that was? That was actually Brzezinski. There was some, they say it was legislation. I did some research on it. I thought it was a big news. Brzezinski had actually said it. Actually, the father of the woman that comes on Morning Joe in the morning on NBC. I did my research. I actually brought the book where it talked about, he was a part of the Carter administration, Jimmy Carter, when he was the president. And they talked about the issue to keep Africans from the continent from communicating with the African. I know that for a fact because I went to I'm a member of Leadership Newark. So it was a brother that was giving, he was giving a lecture on the naming process of the Ghana, because they said Ghana has the most intricate naming ceremonies for Africans or whatever. So what he said was that when he came here, they told him that when he came to this country, they told him, whatever you do, you stay away from African Americans. And so these are little games that are being played.
You know the YALI program, the Young African Leaders Institute that was started by Obama?
Okay.
Same thing. When the kids come, they're sent to white schools. They're put into white families. It's only when I was now ambassador that the ones who were at Howard, they would come to the mission, and all of them would start telling their friends to say, you have got to come to the African Union, you better listen to the ambassador. When they started coming, they would say, Ambassador, how come we never go to black schools? And some of them were complaining, it's like we're little tokens. They put them in these white families, and the white families take them to church.
Right.
And they're like, oh, I got an African, and intentionally.
Yes.
So I went to the State document, and I did ask, why was that? They said, oh, Ambassador, they tell us they don't want to go. When they come to America, they want to see the real Americans.
Wow.
Not the
Wow.
real Americans.
Right. Right.
So that needs to change as well.
Yes, ma'am.
And they pulled Howard, by the way.
My brother graduated from Howard. I graduated from Johnson Smith University, but he graduated from Howard.
Last year, the Yale students were not sent to Howard. They pulled Howard out.
Ain't that something?
Ain't that something?
But
They should be starting with HBCUs.
absolutely.
These kids must mix with some of their own.
And you know what's so funny? Howard was just they just found that Howard sent more of their students to medical schools than any other, more African people. I say African. I refer to myself as African, right?
Absolutely.
They send more to medical schools than any other institution in this country, and that's because Xavier had been doing it at one time. Xavier is another HBCU that has been sending Africans to medical school more so than any other school. So when you look at the
Xavier is an HBCU?
absolutely, Xavier sent more African Americans for a long time to medical school than any other school. Howard, for the first time this year, is #1 now. So
But they don't talk about it.
no,
Yeah, absolutely.
No.
And so, but they,
I'm gonna pause it for a second. And Ali, can you give us some context of this discussion, where it was at and when it took place?
Absolutely. First of all, thank you, Lou, for allowing me to talk on this platform and bring this information to the masses and for those that feel that this is important enough to us to listen to. But of course, this is the great Dr. Afrikan Echoes. She was actually selected as the ambassador to Zimbabwe, to the United States. And so she came here years ago and she went to medical school here in this country, and she became the ambassador. So this had to be about maybe close to 5 years ago, if I'm not mistaken, that I had the chance to interview her. Someone told me that she was going to be at a location in Hillside, New Jersey. So I made my way up there, and coming inside of the establishment, who did I wind up coming in there with? I came in there with Dr. Chihambori Kwao's a group. And as I came in, I realized that I was with her, and we went to a room. I was allowed to go in, I guess, because they thought I was with them. And so what winded up happening was I went up to her and I said, I've been following you for some time now. And, she was very gracious. And I asked, could I interview her and could I tape it? And she said, absolutely. And so we started to have the discussion about, all the rumblings. Because at the time when I went to interview her, there was rumor. I don't have anything definitive to actually prove it, but there was rumor that the president of France, Macron, actually asked that she be removed as the ambassador because she was bringing up a lot of dust with regard to the relationship between African countries and the French and the influence that the French had in these countries. And so she's actually sharing some of her experiences as an ambassador. And she really kind of opened up a lot of things. I'll be honest with you. In my opinion, I think that all that we see currently happening in Africa right now came from this woman.
Okay.
I think she was the one that actually, now mind you, other people, of course, knew that there had been issue, there has been some issue, but it was her. And she started to do interviews. And I remember she was on Roland Martin. She did an interview on his show. And he actually went to a location where she spoke. And she talked about how when African countries talked about their finances, they would send their money to France. We're talking with all of the countries, maybe about 14 countries, they would send the Francophone, quote unquote. And she checked me on that. No such thing as a Francophone country. And they would send their money to France. We're talking almost $500 billion.
Okay.
And then they would send the money back. But of course, now they're putting interest on it. So it's like a loan. So they're borrowing their own money. So it was hustle. It was hustle from the beginning. So what it was is those countries signed a form, I think if I'm not mistaken, it was called the continuation of colonization. So those leaders in Africa, unfortunately, those at the time, some of them, not all of them, were kind of complicit with what was going on because they were getting their palms buttered. So she's actually giving a general analysis of that whole situation and how she came into the consciousness of it being an ambassador. And she's the one that kind of implied that it was a possibility that Macron was the individual who asked to have her removed because she was letting too much out the bag. She was letting
Okay.
too much out the bag. Yeah, so that's it in a nutshell from the beginning.
All right. I'm going to continue playing this then.
Got you.
Somebody to highlight our achievements. No, we need to highlight.
Absolutely. Xavier sent more African Americans for a long time to medical school than any other school. Howard, for the first time this year, is #1 now. So
But they don't talk about it.
no,
Yeah, absolutely.
no.
So, but the truth is, we must tell our own stories.
Yes, ma'am.
We wait for somebody to highlight our achievements. No,
Yeah.
we need to highlight our own achievements.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, the most important question: how are things going for you? I should have asked you that
Wonderful.
first. I should have asked you that first.
Everything is going on well.
Beautiful.
I tell people that you don't understand. If you know where I came from, you understand why this was not a job.
Beautiful.
If it was a job, I would not have taken it.
Labor of love.
Everything was no,
Yeah.
no.
Right.
The
Right.
exception of an opportunity to serve.
Yes.
My husband nicely put it. He said, "Honey, if you don't take this job, I don't ever want to hear you complain about what is wrong with our Africa.
Absolutely.
Rather, if you don't take this position, it's a platform
Right.
that allows you to represent.
Okay.
So, are you denying the ability to represent 1.27 billion? To whom much is given, much is expected.
Wow. That's right.
You have been exposed to a lot.
That's right.
You have a lot to share, and you are in a position to defend and protect because of
Absolutely.
what you know. So that's what I came to do, not to work.
Yes.
I came to represent, and as I hung around and began to understand what was really going on with the medical doctor, I began to make my diagnosis. And my
Yes.
diagnosis was that our ignorance about ourselves
Absolutely.
and what's really going on in Africa
That's right.
is what was killing us.
Absolutely.
So my very first video, I did it in order to begin to take the diaspora on a journey of realignment.
Okay.
Where Africa is in a losing lane. Africa needs to get into the winning lane
Right.
before we can talk about winning.
Absolutely.
Winning when you're sitting in a Titanic that is sinking is still losing.
Ooh, that's right.
So we gotta get out of the Titanic. Either fix the Titanic
That's right.
so it stops leaking,
Yes.
or get out of the Titanic
Yes.
into a ship that is not sinking.
Right.
And so people needed to realize that realization.
Okay.
People needed to realize that awareness of saying we are in the wrong lane.
Right.
So complaining about the African heads of states, that's not the place to be.
Absolutely.
We're fighting our war from the wrong front. Every conversation, be it African diaspora, be it US government, is started with, but the African leaders are corrupt, as if that was the conversation stopper.
Absolutely.
Well, when you take a leader who is operating in an environment that is completely controlled from outside,
Right.
how is that leader supposed to
Absolutely.
succeed?
Absolutely.
You know, so we're not saying there are not some leaders who shoulder some blame,
Right.
but to shoulder a small portion of the blame when you're not addressing the root cause of the problems,
That's right.
you're wasting your time.
That's right.
Because you can bring in another leader. If those conditions still exist, they're still going to be subjected to
That's
the
right.
same.
Absolutely.
So I felt that as Africans, we needed to understand our Africa from the root.
Mm.
And the root cause was the colonizers. And translating the Berlin Conference into your everyday life,
Absolutely.
that was missing.
Yes.
Translating the pact for the continuation of colonization
Yes, ma'am.
into your everyday life, that was missing. Majority of people didn't even know about the pact for the continuation of colonization.
Absolutely.
That was huge.
And you know what? I've been blessed to be around other Africans to know, and I'm talking about Africans in diaspora. I'm talking about those from the Caribbean, those throughout the diaspora, to know the history of the Berlin Conference, to know the history of the fact that when the Africans came here, when they built the Panama Canal, that they started legislation to keep other Africans from coming into this country. We're talking about the latter part of the 19th century. They stopped them from coming here, and Booker T. Washington was the one that used the Tuskegee machine, another HBCU, Tuskegee University down in Alabama. That they started legislation to say, no, we're not doing that. And they stopped that. They stopped that from happening. So the Africans that were of the diaspora that helped build the Panama Canal were allowed to then come into Africa. So there's a rich history. And there's also a rich history of the Africans on the continent, in the diaspora, and the relationship that they've had with us. Kwame Nkrumah. Hey, we can talk about Fairleigh. Fairleigh didn't realize he was Nigerian or he was Orisha or Ifa until he came to the United States. So we've always had this relationship. And so now with all of this misinformation that's being put out, they're trying to diminish that. They're trying to diminish that and not let us realize that, you know what, we do have a rich history where we've developed relationships, and it's starting to rise up again. And they know that. They know that.
You know, the sad thing is, especially living here in the United States, we see what other races are doing.
Yes, ma'am.
And somehow we are incapable.
Yes.
Of taking a page out of their playbook.
Absolutely.
And we see our communities being abused, being taken advantage of.
Yes.
And we can't seem to stop.
Right.
And so it goes back to, as I went through the process of trying to understand ourselves, what is the real problem with us? Why can't we come together to take care of us?
That's right.
We are so self-destructive.
Absolutely.
We are full of self-hate.
Right.
And it keeps us kind of like an angry people,
right?
In a way.
Confused.
Yes. We can't seem to get ourselves out of it.
Yes.
So that's where the healing begins.
Right.
With knowledge, and then a conversation with image in the mirror.
Absolutely.
And really, really ask yourself, why do I behave the way I do?
That's right.
Why do I feel the way I do?
Yes, ma'am.
But it starts with awareness and really understanding your world and understanding that you're part of a strategy to keep you where you are.
Yes, ma'am.
Now we have a solution.
Now we have the solution. And the solution is within us.
Right. We had the solution.
We have the solution.
We
just needed to get to that
pushing
point of
it forward.
awareness.
Yes, ma'am.
And that's kind of like where we are pushing it. But now it's a critical time because Africa is now opening up.
Yes.
With the African Continental Free Trade Area, we can no longer afford to be on the sidelines.
Right.
Otherwise, Africa is going to be gone.
Right.
And when I say gone, I mean gone.
Right.
They're coming for a complete clean sweep.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, they are.
The opportunities that are available in Africa today, these are opportunities Black people are never anywhere near them. And we're saying we need to be on the driver's seat, and we can be on the driver's seat.
That's right.
Of those opportunities.
That's right.
And our people are not getting involved because they don't know.
Right.
And that is why I don't care where I get called, I'm going, I'm talking, I'm letting everybody know.
That's right.
That there's something amazing and wonderful going on in our continent. And everybody, yes.
Well,
so we started an institute, African Diaspora Development Institute. It's going to be the one-stop shop for everything African.
Beautiful.
So the plan is to open offices in every country. So now the heads of states, the reason they were not reaching out to the diaspora, there wasn't a one-stop shop where you can say, I will call this office and they can reach out to the diaspora. So they were giving these contracts to Chinese.
Same thing they do in the city of Newark. I'm from Newark. The same thing. You don't give the contracts to the residents of Newark. You give it to everybody else. You have people that are qualified that are right here, they could actually, I'm sorry.
Yesterday, I think you had left that.
To a degree, that's my friend. Him and my brother went to school together. I went to school with his sister that got killed years ago.
No, the reason because I'm deputy mayor. Well, I served as deputy mayor for 5 years.
Okay.
So it changed.
Well, I've lived there my whole life.
I lived there for 30 years.
Okay.
And I still live there.
So I know it has changed from what it used to be.
Right.
So
it has changed, but there's so much that needs to be done. And don't get me wrong, because Raz is my friend.
I know, but if you lived in Newark,
and
if you know what it used to be 15 years ago, 20 years ago,
like I'm third generation Newark.
There you go. So that's what I'm saying. So we have to give that
own property, pay property taxes. No. It's not. It's not me. It's not me. It's not me criticizing because I'm his number one advocate. But what I'm saying is that due to the history, since Mayor Gibson was in office, and when Charlotte
Lou, put this on pause for a second.
Contracts weren't given.
You know, Newark is tough.
Okay.
So this guy here, he felt compelled to interrupt because he is the deputy mayor. He actually is still a deputy mayor, so he felt as if he needed to defend Raz Baraka. And like I said to him in this video, and I still say today that, I'm an advocate of the current mayor. However, you got to call a spade a spade.
Nobody's
And what I
beyond reproach when it comes to criticism. Everybody is.
Absolutely. And so he felt like he needed to come into the discussion. And the reality is that I'm not having an interview with him. I'm having an interview with Dr. Tihambori Kwao. And I think that he was out of pocket. I didn't check him too much. I let him talk, and he talked for a little bit. And if he's going to keep going on,
You want me to fast forward it to where she?
Well, let it go for a little bit more, and then if he still is going on, then fast forward it. Yeah.
Okay, good to go.
It goes back to
because I'll tell you one program that he introduced.
Okay.
You know, the empowering men. You know, the men.
I go to those meetings. Yeah, I go.
I know what to do there.
Right.
Good. So
right.
So
No. It's
he's
right.
doing a lot.
Yeah.
But it takes more. I mean, everybody got to be on board. It's not just Raspberry.
Right.
The mindset of the people also has to, got to change.
Right.
Just like she was talking about Africans changing their mindset.
Right.
Newarkers.
Right.
You got to change their mindset too.
Absolutely.
So
but remember, what I'm saying.
Whatever we're getting is not big enough.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Big contract.
Absolutely.
We want bold moves like what Maynard Jackson did in Atlanta.
That's right. He said it.
Exactly. That's right.
Unless X percentage of contractors
That's
are
right.
black. Plain and simple. So
50%. 50. That's right.
Exactly.
50% of. He said 50. Maynard Jackson said 50% of something or 100% of nothing.
Exactly.
That's right.
Right.
Billionaires were made
oh my God. That's why you was like, that's right. To this day.
I'm talking about now. In Africa, we're not talking little projects.
Lou, stop for a second. Stop for a second, Lou.
That's right.
Let me tell you something. This woman has the pulse. She has her hand on the pulse. No pun intended. No pun intended. Because she is a doctor, but she knew what I was saying, and she isn't even a resident of Newark. She's not even a resident of New Jersey. So the first name that she brings up is Maynard Jackson. And mind you, at that time when I interviewed her, I had been studying Maynard Jackson. As a matter of fact, my ex-wife at the time, she was able to get me some information regarding Maynard Jackson and how he ruled with a tight fist in Atlanta, Georgia. And what she said was, what Maynard Jackson had said, that listen, when you build this airport, because that airport, there are millionaires today that are African American in that region of the world called Georgia, Atlanta. They were able to reap the benefits of what Maynard Jackson was doing at that time. So she saw where I was going with it. She saw where he was going with it, and she jumped in. She says, "That's not what he's saying. That's not what he's saying." Because the thing is, I'm not interviewing him. I'm interviewing Dr. Tihambori Kwao. He's not a bad guy, but right now he's out of pocket because I'm not talking to him.
And he's deflecting from a
You're deflecting.
he's not part of.
Exactly. But yeah, you could go on.
Build in the down. When it's complete.
That's right.
Exactly.
That's right.
Billionaires were made
oh my God. That's why you was like, that's right.
To
this day.
I'm talking about now. In Africa, we're not talking little projects.
That's
we're
right.
Not talking little programs.
That's right.
We're talking big
That's right.
programs that we are building generational wealth.
Absolutely.
We want to build in the down. When it's complete,
that's
we
right.
Power all of Africa and part of Europe. That's what I'm talking about.
Absolutely.
We want to build the high-speed rail from Cape Town to Cairo.
That's right.
You tell me why, my brother. The Atlanta airport, one of the best airports in the country.
She knows. International Atlanta Airport. That's right.
Airport in the world.
That's right.
Built by black people, run and managed by black people.
That's right.
Why is it that none of the airports in Africa are built by black people? Are you with me?
She's talking back to Africa, so I won't talk about Newark.
Because she knows her history. She knows her history.
I know. She's talking back to Africa, so I'm not going to talk about Newark. Let's stay in Africa. No, I know.
That's right.
No, I agree with that.
Right.
They tell you, like...
Okay, let me ask you a question.
2 months ago, I was in China.
Okay.
They gave us a tour of the new Beijing airport.
Okay.
Right? You need to see this airport. If they tell you how much we spent, I'm from Nigeria, by the way, how much we spent at that disgraceful Murtala Mohammed airport, it can beat that Beijing airport.
But who built that airport in China?
Chinese. Who built the Nigerian airport? That's what I'm telling you. So why did they build it?
That's our point. That's our point.
Yeah, it's our point. That's what I'm
Not forget all these little side, this little bitty contracts.
ADPI is now going to the heads of states and saying, we now have an entry point into the diaspora.
That's
So
right.
before you go and offer contract to the Europeans, to the Chinese, to the Japanese,
That's right.
Russians, Indians, start with us.
How about that?
Because this belongs to us.
That's right.
Before there was no mechanism. So
That's
we
right.
need an entry point.
That's right.
I've met with, the young man last day before yesterday, the 100 black men. There was a young man standing next to him. He is the president of the National Black Business Council or something like that.
Okay.
And you're talking millions of black American businesses. Yeah, one-stop shop. We bring the contract to them. Guys, we need this right now. I just got the listing from the Congo. I haven't sent it to you, so I need to send it to you. They have a new port in Banana City, which is right between Cameroon, Angola, and there's this little part of DRC on the Atlantic. Brand new ports that needs to be built. Why can't we build?
That's right.
Yeah. So they said, Ambassador, tell them.
Okay, Ambassador, let me ask you, has any country started using your services yet?
No, we just started.
Oh, you just started?
I'm just putting it together.
I just pray to God that they use it. Because they have excuses, because the reason why I'm saying, they have interest with it. You should give this contract to those expatriates or foreign expatriates.
But before we say that, my brother, first we must be present. We're not there.
So that's what I'm saying.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So once we're there,
I agree with you.
now we can complain.
There you go. Yeah.
Before we were missing in action.
So that's right.
Yeah. So we
they
have to
don't
come
have
together.
any
That's right.
excuse
No
anymore.
more excuses.
That's right.
We're going to say we now have the diaspora.
Absolutely.
One phone call, you have an entrance into the diaspora. We must go home and take what is ours.
That's right.
It is just plain and simple.
Absolutely.
And we must pick our tools.
Because the reason why I said that, in the case of Nigeria, we've had similar outfits that we presented to them. I remember when this current president came on board, I went to Nigeria before in front of his so-called think tank, and we made presentation with 18 proposals. 4 of them
But did you have the money?
we had everything. We had everything. Some of them even were going to bring money. All we needed was them to give us, in some cases, give us right of exclusivity and all that to do whatever.
Somebody told me something, a phenomenon that I've not seen anywhere else except in Nigeria, where they're taking homeless white people, dusting them up, giving them a 3-piece suit and a briefcase, and put them in a hotel, and just bring them on to sit next to them when they negotiate the contract. Because the white man is sitting next to you.
There you go. That's what I was telling you.
Are you with us?
No, that's what I told you. I witnessed.
But you know what the problem is? It's us.
That's
It's
right.
the disease of the
Thank you.
head.
That's right.
It's the shackles of the mind.
Absolutely.
So until people realize that they're suffering from that, how do you change?
Again,
That's
I'm gonna go back to the case of Nigeria. These people don't want to change it because they benefit from it. Because you're Nigerian, right? So she knows what I'm talking about. Nigeria, like you said, is a very unique. They're beneficial. They are the ones that will tell you to just get a white man, dust him up, like you said, bring it to us. This, I'm telling you, I'm not making this enough.
No, many people have told me.
And dust him up, come, who's going to sign the contract? Just tell us, make a maybe ID card or whatever, tell us he is so and so. And we give him the contract. That's it.
We have to stop that. We have to stop that.
That's what, so,
Yeah.
but I believe, which is why the diaspora, I think the strength of Africa now lies in the diaspora.
Absolutely.
So,
And
I've said
to
that.
neutralize Nigeria. So when we go into Nigeria, we don't go just as Nigerians.
that is what I'm telling
We
you.
are people from everywhere.
Thank you. You see, it wasn't enough. Well, that's what I was just telling her, that we have to form a new Africa. What I call a new Africa.
Yes.
Whereby it doesn't matter you're from Malawi, you're from Congo, you're from Ghana, you're from Nigeria. We have a new Africa here. A new Africa that will appeal to our kids, the kids that we have here, that will be positive enough to give them some type of appeal. This is why I need to go to Africa to do this because of so. So we need to have that. So we're talking about it when we were downstairs. So until we do that, and then form ourselves economically, socio-politically, be strong here.
But you know what, too? She's more likely to work better in DRC than in Nigeria. You see, she will work harder in DRC than in Nigeria. So we just begin to dilute each other. My sister from Colombia here, she will be more respected when she goes to Nigeria than in Colombia. So,
but we have to work together.
That's just our people.
So we know who to send where.
Yes.
You know, so until we do that, we have to. And when I was the deputy mayor, I told the mayor we needed to start a program whereby the Africans and the African Americans will work together, learn from each other.
Let me tell you, my brother, you are so right. Right now, the biggest thing, all these people who went, and said, I'm sure you've come across it, all these people who went to Ghana, and some for tourism, some are beginning to look into businesses. I am so sick and tired of everybody saying, I want to show them this and I want to teach them this. I want to. No. Everybody is going with the attitude that I'm going to tell them what to do. One of them, we were talking today. He said, no. What we do is when we go to Africa, we train the natives and we teach the natives. I told him, I said, stop.
That's
I
right.
said, are you a native?
That's right.
I said, are you a native?
Let me tell you the point.
He said, no. I'm not a native. That's what Africans are native.
That's right.
So it's that mindset.
Right.
That superiority. I can tell you, if that is not fixed, the relationship will not last.
That's right.
Pretty soon, people will start saying, this diaspora, they come in here thinking they know everything. So there's need for that education.
Humility.
So the point I was making downstairs, until we, tell ourselves, okay, the diaspora, we go there, we form ourselves, we are strong enough, we are a force, so that there are things we come here. Okay, I'll tell you, when we come from Africa, wherever, to America, we have a sense of purpose. We have a reason why we're here, and we pursue that reason. So when I told the mayor what we needed to do was, we need to find a reason why Africans, in this case Nigerian students, perform exceptionally well in American universities. And it's a record that they are the best performing students amongst all the immigrants. It doesn't matter whether they are Africans or it doesn't matter where they are from.
Very true.
But they are. So I said, let's find out how they do that. We'll learn from there.
I already know how. I'll give you the answer. You ain't got to know research. I can tell you how.
We have to integrate it into our system. I gave him an example, like a simple example that I know as a Nigerian.
Right.
Let's say there are two kids. They live in the same neighborhood, the same house. His name is Obi. He's a Nigerian from the Igbo tribe, and his friend is Tyrone, African American kid. They go to the same school. We pay high, we pay high. So now they're preparing for an examination. So they're supposed to go to the library. So Obi, because says, okay, I'm going to the library, picks up his book, he goes. Now Tyrone is supposed to go along the road. He meets his homies playing dice.
Stop. Hold on. Stop. No, stop. My brother's a graduate of Hold on. No.
I'm giving an example.
I hear you.
But let me finish.
But it's not that. Okay, I'm gonna let you. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So now, because Dad said, I'm going to stop by the library. Mom said, I'm going to check up on you. So he's not going to stop. He has to go to that library. So he goes there. Mom, Tyrone is a good kid. Don't get me wrong.
Okay.
But because, he has to go. Nobody's checking to make sure that he goes or stop by the library.
That's true.
So he stays. Okay. While he's playing, he's still waiting for the bus.
Right.
In the process, because he's playing, now gangbangers come. They're not after him, but they're after the other guys. They want to just do some shit, but he doesn't know the street thing, how to dodge and all that. He gets caught up.
But let me add to your story. Because I'm born here, right? My DNA says I'm your brother. That's what it says.
So he's introducing one of these tired ass tropes about
all we do is drink malt liquor, play dice, and eat chicken wings.
Not that specifically, but I check them once you'll see on here. And that's the problem, that here it is, you're the deputy mayor, and that was the only story that you could think of.
And
that somehow that your son is a little more productive or he's a little more disciplined. You couldn't tell. So let play a little more and you'll see what I say.
And he's the deputy mayor of Newark.
Exactly. So
How
play
can
the tape.
I trust him in that position when it sounds like he has implicit bias against us?
Well, that's, and the unfortunate thing about it is that that's where we're at right now, and that's why we have this contention between those communities. But play it, and I'll show you how I check them, and you'll know the person that I'm going to make the example of.
All right. Every time I pause,
He
Facebook.
graduated from Howard University with a degree in microbiology.
Go back a little bit. Go back a little bit. There you go.
Now,
There you go.
young bangers come. They're not after him, but they're after the other guys. They want to just do some shit, but he doesn't know the street thing, how to dodge and all that. He gets caught up.
But let me add to the story.
yes,
Because
yes,
I'm born here, right? My DNA says I'm Europe, by the way. That's what it says. Let's just say that. But I'm born and raised here. But I'll just say this to you. My brother graduated from Howard University with a degree in microbiology. And he went back to school and got an MBA. He works for the National Institute of Health right now. We were born and raised on South 7th Street in Newark between 12th and 13th Avenue.
Our neighborhood.
Is an individual in Newark who was deemed as the biggest drug dealer in Newark. I knew him. I knew him personally. I think that
The water.
The phone is ringing. I know, that's okay.
everyone,
You can turn it off.
I think that if we continuously tell those,
Message is the kids, you can turn it off.
Okay.
I think because we continuously tell those same stories, right? Because regardless of the fact that Nigeria does score high in every other ethnic group, white, black, or whatever, that's not the story that's being disseminated. The same story. Hold on, it's the same story about the African American. I went to Johnson C. Smith University.
I agree, but
Right, but we keep on using that as a
the point I'm
template.
taking
That
is-
can't be the
No, the
template.
point I'm taking
Yes,
is
sir.
we got to learn from each other's
True,
strengths.
I agree. I
Each
agree.
other's strengths.
But
I
stop
agree.
telling the
See that-
story.
that example.
But we
Because-
always use that
No, but
example.
You was smiling for some butter biscuits?
See, but the thing is, when you're in the room, like I did, and that's not me patting myself on the back, you got to check those stories. You got to check that narrative. And not only do you need to check that narrative, you need to have the examples of the antithesis to that narrative. You can't keep telling people the same story that, oh, they don't want to do this and they don't know to do that. I know a whole bunch of engineers
You from
that are
North
African
Indigo Flow?
American. What'd you say? Say it again, Lou.
Nah, I saw Indigo Flow. You from Newark? Let me find
She
out.
said them number streets ain't sweet.
Oh, yeah.
But that's my point, that, you know, and we have to also do it with some care as well too, because we'll get into a situation where we'll just be arguing back and forth, and so we're just arguing to argue. We're just responding just to respond instead of teaching. And so that was a teachable moment. So he probably didn't know that I was going to say that my brother and your friend Lou is a microbiologist. He got his undergraduate degree in microbiology and did that with the government for a number of years, and then went back and got his MBA. And he currently works for the government in infectious diseases. And so,
Yeah, Dre.
to continuously tell that trope, it was unfair, and it was unfair to the fact that it was an interview being had with Dr. Chiyombori Kwao.
Yeah.
But you can go.
Go ahead, Ali.
But you can go ahead and play a little bit more. But say what you got to say, though.
And here's the thing, too, you got to realize. And I'm not saying him, but a lot of people know what the fuck be going on. And they use these disingenuous tropes and tactics to deflect from the conversation.
Right.
A lot of people that's here, even Ray Charles could see what the fuck is going on in society. But they use these white supremacist tropes,
right?
And they know it's not true. They don't want to go deeper into the weeds, but they say this stuff as one, to shit on black people, and two, and probably in this case, I don't know the brother.
Well, with him, if you pay attention to the interview, the whole interview, once he jumped in and wasn't invited, he wanted to center on Nigeria and what Nigeria could do, because she's speaking to opportunities that could be had through the organization, which we're going to talk about that a little bit, through her organization. So he's trying to center himself. He's trying to center Nigeria. And the problem is that us, as those who have been deposed here in the United States, we don't know enough about our history to present that and to let people know, hey, this is our story. You know, I called in on the Clay Kane show today on Urban View, 126 on satellite radio, and said to him, listen, you know, everybody's talking about this whole boycott thing. And my whole thing is that, you know, that's
What, the
cool.
boycott of Target?
Well, not just Target, just stores that are actually against, you know, the DEI or whatever that might be. And I called, I said, listen, the problem is that we don't study the history that we have. You know, there's a whole history of us boycotting. One of the biggest stories in the history of the United States was called the Montgomery bus boycott. You know, and when that started and how that started and who was involved and how long they did it. You know, a lot of people don't even know that the Montgomery bus boycott, it went on for a whole year. It went on for a whole year until that case went to the Supreme Court. And even after that, they were still discriminated against African Americans that were getting on those buses. But my thing is that we have to get to a point where we have to know our own history and how that plays into where we're at right now. See, everybody's running in different directions, because the Montgomery bus boycott, a lot of times, well, from what we know, they thought it was over once that happened. Oh, we won victory. And it was a victory for them at that time. But nobody had the wherewithal to say, hey, you know what? Why don't we start our own bus company? Why don't we start our own transportation company, taxi cab company? Why don't we start that? They say that during the Montgomery bus boycott, and I know I'm veering off the subject a little bit, and maybe we can talk about this in depth, but there were over 200 cars that they used every day to transport people to work and back. It was an organized animal. That bus boycott was an organized animal. So we just can't stop at one point and then rest on our laurels. It has to be an organized attempt at doing some things. I think it's only a few minutes left, Lou.
Yeah.
Play it, and then, you know, I'll tell you what to cut it off or not, because I think that she had to leave after that, but we'll see.
It's just something we have to, you know.
I'm sorry.
That we have to use.
Right. No.
I mean,
Let's not use that story.
Okay, maybe.
How about we use the story about Ali McBride that went to Howard University
We can.
and got his, and we barely could.
The point I'm making is, let's use each other's strength to build ourselves.
I agree. Let's use the strength.
We face,
Yes.
Let me tell you, when I was sitting as a deputy mayor, you know.
Mhm.
Why am I talking to this guy?
And
They
they
should
question
slap
why
him.
this African. Why would an African? But if it's a Caucasian person, it's okay.
Right. Or Latina. Latina.
You understand what
Absolutely.
I'm saying? But why this African?
But that's my point.
So
you're making my point.
Because we're not working together, because we see each other like we are competing, like we are.
I agree.
You know, so
I
we have
agree.
to work together as a team.
I agree.
That's
Let's let the ambassador address
Take
it.
it to another level.
Yes, sir.
So
Yes,
you
ma'am. I'm
guys,
sorry.
what you're discussing, picture is a tree. You're talking about the flowers and the leaves and the branches that are falling off. You
Yes.
still haven't gone to the core as to why
That's right.
the African American is where they are
Yes, ma'am.
and why the continental African is where they are.
Why? Right.
Have you ever wondered how it's like to go through life not knowing where you come from? Now, have you ever?
Yeah.
No, but you don't know how it feels.
Right.
Because I
You
have
can
That's
only
right.
imagine.
Imagine. That's
You
right.
see what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah,
That's
I'm with
right.
These are realities that African Americans are living with every day. African Americans, Afro Latino, Afro Caribbean.
That's right.
I had never questioned myself until about 10 years ago.
Mm.
And it was a girlfriend, and I don't know why that particular day, when she asked me, for a split second, I stopped and I put myself in a position of not knowing where I come from, something that I just never thought about. It was a very sad moment. Briefly, it was so painful that I snatched myself out of it. But since then, I started looking for it. I was still practicing medicine then. There's a void in the subconscious of descendants of previously enslaved people.
Absolutely.
It is a void that they have been forced to suppress,
Right.
but it is there. And it leaves you just sort of no anchor. It affects everything you do. It's really the core of your being.
Right.
Unless I can only imagine, because I started looking for it in my patients, in talking to them. I had one example 2 years ago. We were at an event, I was ambassador there, and I spoke first. And I spoke about, by that time, always referring to my girlfriend, what it's like to not know where you come from, and that Africa has a responsibility to reclaim her children back,
Yes, ma'am.
and acknowledge them
Yes.
and re-anchor them. Anyway, then the next person to speak after me was this banker, well-to-do woman, and she was describing a situation at a retreat. She was the only black, and they were just talking in general about, I'm Irish American, I'm Italian American, I'm Mexican American. And as everybody was talking about where they came from, they were beginning to approach her. And she was thinking, now, where do I come from? And even as she's saying that on the stage, because the environment was right, we were all black people, African Americans, continental Africans. She allowed herself to go there. She just broke down. And she started sobbing. She could not stop crying, weeping. And she apologized. She kept apologizing, trying to stop weeping, but she couldn't. She said, I just never realized how this was within me.
Yes.
And she allowed herself finally to get to that place where she could express how she felt.
Absolutely.
That is the core. We must reconnect.
Yes.
Descendants of the formerly enslaved, they must reconnect. They must know
That's right.
that from an amazing continent, they
That's
must re-establish with their roots.
Absolutely.
When they do that, it's a game changer.
That's right.
Complete game changer.
Thank you,
And
Ambassador.
that has to be done.
Yes, ma'am.
To not do it is criminal.
That's
Absolutely.
right. Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Which is why I'm glad that the heads of states approved the ARA 400, January of 2018. No, 2019, where they said once and for all, they're calling on all descendants of the formerly enslaved
Absolutely.
to come home. And they must know that they are Africans and that they are welcome.
Absolutely.
That needs to be done, and going to Africa should be as easy as ABC. No one should ever have to think going to Africa is impossible. It should be possible.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And it takes us.
Thank you,
So
Ambassador.
part of what we're going to be doing is a legacy program,
Yes, ma'am.
where we are going to be also giving.
Okay.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I think it was a wonderful interview. And you know what? I'm kind of glad that he did interject that. I mean, even though, of course, he tried to center himself, he tried to center Nigeria. And I think that that's part of the problem. When people,
A lot of
Some people-
tribalism that happens over there.
well, not even the tribalism, the fact that, he was able to make it out of Nigeria, to come to the United States, and now he is trying to dictate how we should do things, right? He's trying to dictate to us how things should go, and then giving these tropes that you would hear from any white person that has never visited Newark or urban area, whatever, and making that the story, And here it is. He's talking to a degreed individual at that time. I had my master's at that time. My brother went back and got his MBA after, getting his undergraduate degree in microbiology, and then he's telling this story about some Joe Blow that his son went to school with. But besides that, the fact that Dr. Chimbori Kwao was so dialed in to what the issue was is really, really impressive. And I think that it also adds some, some people would say that. Some absolutely would say that, Indigo, that she was so dialed in and she understood what the issue was. Being from Zimbabwe, she understood what the issue was, and she understood what needed to be done. And I think that that's the page that we need to be on. Now, some would say that, all of us are from, that might be an argument, and that's quite okay. I'm talking from a position of power, and I'm talking from the position that the one thing that would help us exponentially is developing a relationship with countries that could use our services, or countries where we could take some of the stress when we're here and we can go someplace else and possibly become successful, or buy land, or start a business. You know, I got a friend right now, my man Kevin. You know, as I was the coordinator for Afrikan Echoes for many years, my man Kev winded up coming. He would come and visit Afrikan Echoes, come to the lectures, and then when I was taking classes in Yoruba, because you know, I'm a practitioner of Ifa, he would also take the classes, and he hooked up with Dr. Cambone, Obadeli Cambone. And then he started being one of the administrators for his language classes online. Now, Dr. Cambone, of course, lives in Ghana, where his father was a psychiatrist here in the States. He actually went out to Ghana, and now his whole family lives in Ghana right now. So I hadn't heard from my man Kevin in a while. I was like, damn, I wonder what Kevin, I haven't heard from him. I got to give him a call. So one day I was waiting out in the parking lot. I dropped somebody off. I didn't want to go all the way back home. So I went to a Whole Foods parking lot, and I'm just sitting there kind of playing on social media and reading and stuff. And he sends me a text message, and I happen to look, and he was wrapped up in the Ghanaian regalia, and he says, I'm a Ghanaian citizen. So I'm like, wow. So he's a dual citizen, still a citizen of the United States, also a citizen of Ghana. And so now he's in a position, and he's in a space where he can do business there. He owns land there now, and he's already got some businesses going there. We have to find a lane where we can do some things and actually be better than where we're at. That's not to say that everybody is doing bad here in the United States, because obviously we're not. However, there's some more out there. There's some other things that we can do that can contribute to us doing even better than we're doing without the suppression, without being in a space where we're not allowed to be the best people that we can actually be. And so the fact that Dr. Kwao was able to penetrate that meeting, he was able to penetrate that, become an ambassador, see what was going on inside. She moved around some furniture. So Emmanuel Macron been running ever since. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I think that Dr. Afrikan Chihumbori Kwao is really the impetus for Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger to do what they're currently doing now. As a matter of fact, her organization, the African Diaspora Development Institute that she developed a few years back, they had a trip over there last summer. And what they had done was anybody that wanted to come and become dual citizens with Burkina Faso could do so. And she had always been talking about doing something with Burkina Faso for all of those years. She said, we got to find ways to open things up. And I'll be honest with you, I'm glad that I was on that when I got on that, and to hear that she was going to be there to go and interview her, because in my mind, I was under the impression that, whoa, ECOWAS is the way to go, and all these other countries should be a part of ECOWAS. And some would say that ECOWAS may not be where everybody
you
needs
hold
to be.
up? Could you explain what ECOWAS is for those who may not know?
Economic, you know what? It's really it's a coalition. I'll tell you right now. I'm sorry, I don't remember what the acronyms actually stand for, and I appreciate that, Lou. But it's the Economic Community of West African States, and so that organization is a representative of a couple of countries. Matter of fact, it says here. Let's see here. Does it say what countries it is? It doesn't actually say. Yes, it does. It says Cape Verde, Cameroon, Ghana, Gambia, Guinea, Liberia, Nigeria, Sierra Leone, and they were trying to develop the West African franc. And so those who are part of the AES, the African Economic States, I think, the Sahel states, something like that. I forgot. Matter of fact, let's see what that was. Let's be accurate. So that's what ECOWAS means, the Economic Community of West African States. And the EAS in the Sahel region is, pardon me, y'all. I was let me see here. They're gonna have something else. Hold on a second. Give me a minute. So of the Sahel. Sahel. Pardon me, I got my acronyms all messed up. It's the
So it's the
Alliance.
Economic Coalition of West African States.
Yeah. It's Alliance of the Sahel States. That's what it is. The Alliance of the Sahel States. It's a confederation formed between Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso, and so no other countries are joining now. And I think that's why they got on here, because it's like a continuation. It's Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso, Chad, Mauritania, Senegal, Guinea, Cameroon, Nigeria, and parts of the Sudan.
And I wonder how many of them are petitioning to join BRICS by chance.
Well, Nigeria, which is a part of ECOWAS, I'm of the mind that Tinubu, who's the current president of Nigeria, I got a feeling that since Nigeria has become a part of BRICS, that they're going to probably step out of ECOWAS. Because I'm of the mind that ECOWAS is probably controlled more so by the United States and France, or France and the United States.
And what's the president of Burkina Faso? Is Ibrahim, I think.
He's the current leader. Yes, Ibrahim Traoré is the current leader of
Russia too. So.
Yeah, he is. A lot of those places, a lot of them are, because of course, remember now another thing that back to Dr. Chiambari Kwao, she talked about this legislation called the continuation of colonization, which is crazy. They literally have a pact, and that's why they have these imbalanced relationships with France, where they take their money and redo their money, and they send the gold to France and they redevelop it and all kind of craziness. Ibrahim Traoré said this is madness, and so they said, "Listen, you know what? We're gonna ask you one time. Y'all gotta leave. Y'all gotta go. Y'all ain't gotta go home, but y'all gotta get out of here." And
but
so,
sorry to interrupt. You know what Russia did, right? They left Syria and went right down to Libya to build a base.
Who did that now?
Putin.
Oh, I didn't listen.
They took the assets from Syria and they went right down to the Libyan coast.
Wow. Well, you got to think of it like this too. And Dr. Chiambari Kwao, again, she always goes back to the Berlin Conference. She always goes back to the Berlin Conference. Now, remember, what was the one country out of all the European countries that didn't participate in the Berlin Conference?
Russia.
Right. So at the end of the day, decades later, that means something. And so that's the mentality that we have to get, that, you can't talk about developing something and then expect something tomorrow. You have to develop something. You got to sit in that for a little bit and let it develop, and then watch it grow. These things take time. See, people are so caught up in the social media algorithm that they think that as soon as you think something, that it's supposed to come into fruition. And that's not it. These things take time. And so right now, what we're seeing in the Sahel region countries, and now you see that the president of Ghana starting to turn those things, he's starting to turn around, with this new president. He's like, yo, listen, I don't like what the last president did. I need the United States. I need for you to leave. And so we can take some note from that, even with all of the things that we're enduring right now, with them talking about not respecting Black manufacturers, or Black business makers, or Black creators, or whatever. We have to find ways to work around that. And nobody said it's going to be easy, because it won't. It's not going to be easy. But the harder it is, and the more dedication we have to the plan, makes it that much sweeter when we finish. So I think that the listeners that were able to see the interview and to see some of the things that took place in the interview, follow Dr. Afrikan Chiambari Kwao, become a member of her organization, the African Diaspora Development Institute. Become a member of that. Follow up and do your own research. Do your own reading. Don't just do cursory stuff. Don't just go and read something online and then take it for that. Do a deep dive. And I also say, while you can now, do some traveling. Go see the world. Go see if it's a place possibly on the continent of Africa or even in the Caribbean. If it's some place that you might want to make your dual home. Europeans do it all the time. And as a matter of fact, some Europeans do it in Africa. They do it in Africa. It's nothing for us to see somebody, a group of Europeans in Senegal speaking French, because they've made that area of the world their second home. You got Europeans practicing African spiritual systems.
I saw
They
a
go
post, speaking of that, I saw a post on Facebook.
Yeah.
Where I think it was Yoruba Igbo. It was a white lady, and she was wearing the traditional garb and all that, and they were all around some ceremonial thing, and I think somebody made a wise ass statement like, "This is the new Yoruba queen," or something like that. It was on Facebook. I saw the other day.
Oh, she ain't no queen. Trust me. They really be playing. She ain't no queen. But they are going and becoming a part of these traditions that we turn our noses up to, or that we say is worshiping the devil. You know, to the point where those that are of Yoruba descent and practicing Ifa, they actually have groups called Eshu is not the devil. You know, Eshu is what they call the cross, the deity that represents the crossroads. And so they developed, you know, they come up with this thing that the Eshu is not the devil. You know, what are you talking about? But that's because we've allowed other people to define those systems.
Well, it's funny for like, and it's so ironic that, you know, you have a group of people that only been here on this planet for probably 50,000 years, and they're telling us how we should engage in our spiritual beliefs.
Well, it's a hiccup in the universal algorithm. That's all. It's a hiccup in the universal algorithm, because we always talk about how Africans were enslaved here for 400 years. 400 years is a blip on the timeline of human development. Just get him to check on Diop and look at what he talked about and the things that he found out. Yeah, these things, every once in a while when you grow up, somebody caught you pissing in the alleyway next to Miss Barber's house. But Miss Barber had to run her down and say, "What you doing pissing in my hallway?" Everybody is afforded the opportunity to pardon my expression, to muck things up, right? So what makes those Africans that unfortunately got enslaved, what makes those Africans that were colonized on the continent of Africa and mostly the west coast of Africa, they not allowed to make any mistakes? Yeah, we were a smooth people, but we weren't a perfect people. And so we got to start looking at history through that lens. We have to allow ourselves the understanding that, yeah, we've made some mistakes, and we've trusted people that we shouldn't have trusted, and we wind up slumming in a position that we didn't really need to be slumming in. But we got to get up off the ground. When you fall down and you scrape your knee, stop crying, put some antiseptic on that damn little cut on your knee, get up and start again, start over. You know, because we're at this, what they call might be the second nadir. We're experiencing our second nadir right now, and that's what's happening. And we have to find ways to get around that. We have to find ways to get around that and start over. Get up and start over. Tell your children that if they're going to go to college and if they're going to major in something, don't just go because you want to get away from home and major in communications, and you don't have an idea, because communications is cool too. But don't major in communication because I don't know what else to major in. I'm going to major in the easiest thing. Start getting it together. Start making a plan for what we're going to do tomorrow. I'm sorry, Lou.
Oh, no. I totally agree. If there's anybody that want to come up and ask, Ali, first of all, are you willing to ask any questions? Answer any questions the
Absolutely.
audience might have?
Yes.
I put the link down there. If anybody want to come up and ask Ali a question, feel free. Hit the link, and I'll bring you up.
People are listening.
Yeah. My loyal listeners.
Beautiful. I respect that. I respect them.
I want to ask you a question. What do you think is your personal opinion? What's going on in this country right now in the past few days?
I think the country is going in a direction that the current president wants it to. It's where he wants it to be. I think that if you look at the last time he was president, it was always this wild discourse. It was always something else going on. You know, if he didn't have some Russians in the Oval Office showing him some evidence or whatever, he was colluding with whatever. It was always something going on, and I think that as opposed to us looking at every little thing that he does, and I'm not saying that we should not pay attention to what he's doing. But I am saying that we have to put time to the side to strategize what we're going to do.
No. Yeah,
You know what I mean?
I think with him, and pardon my language, when it's all said and done, this whole country is about to get their nigger wake up call, so to say, with him. Everyone, all groups. Everybody is going to become what they despised, a nigger. Yeah.
Well, I tell you this. First of all, I ain't gonna never be that because I'm an African, and I think that what's gonna also happen is that they're gonna realize that all your little I forget the name of that book, the book that Steve Bannon always talks about, that it's not going to be that easy.
Oh, you mean The Fourth Turning?
No, that's not it. There's another book. I forgot. I got that book in here somewhere, but it's a French story. They translated the book. No, that's not it. But it's a book. I wish I could remember the name. But in the book, they have this romanticized version of what the world will be like if white supremacists took over. Ooh.
You mean the Turner Diaries?
Nope, it's none of that. It's none of it. Dr. Carr is the one who put me on to the book. It's none of those, but I know that Steve Bannon used to tout it at one time. But in any event, these little cartoons that they get caught up in, no, it never turns out like that. Right? It never turns out like that. And that doesn't mean that a lot of us are not gonna get our feelings hurt. But my thing is that when we look at history is the best teacher. History is the best teacher. And even when you talk about an atrocity that took place with the Belgian dude, the Belgian dude that went down to the Congo and was chopping off people's arms and hands and stuff. Leopold, right? That didn't even end the way they thought it would end, right? I mean, he did his damage. He did some damage, but it wasn't something to continue. And the thing is, hopefully, it doesn't turn out where things go in reverse. Because you know what Langston Hughes said about the docile Negro, right? If anybody knows. See, the docile Negro ain't gonna always be the docile Negro. At some point, this is gonna stop. At some point, it's gonna stop. We give we give these cats too much credit. And all you gotta do is look at history. All you gotta do is look at history, and you'll get an idea. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's it in a nutshell.
I mean, and it seems like America's getting its proverbial wake up call because today Russia landed one of their nuclear bombers in Cuba, and you see.
I thought they did that before. They did it again.
Yeah, they landed in Cuba. So China and Russia is posturing like you're not going to bully us. So you're looking at the proverbial end of white supremacy with the Western dominated power.
Absolutely. Matter of fact, the quote of Langston Hughes is a poem that he did. He said, "Negroes sweet and docile, meek, humble, and kind. Beware the day they change their minds. When in the cotton fields, gentle breeze. Beware the hour it uproots trees." So yeah, it's quaint. It's cute to talk about all of the destruction that white supremacy has caused and what they can do. Ooh, they're military and boom, boom, boom. Yeah, but understand, When have they ever been able? Because what's happening is they're trying to go back. They talk about they want to ban books. They want to stop the teaching of the Tuskegee Airmen in the military. Like, you're giving away your plan. Listen, they're masturbating and can't hold their seed. They're so happy. Ooh, they can't hold it, right? But you're giving away all your goods, dog. You're giving away all your goods. Trust me. They're too
And the
happy
world,
to be in this position.
and
Because
the
my
world,
thing is this. Yes, and the thing is, what's going to happen with your hat trick in the next 6 months? What's going to happen with your little clown nose in a year? Oh, let's not even talk about 2 years. It's all cute. But history, again, is the best teacher. My teachers were Dr. John Henry Clark and Dr. Yosef Benyakin, and I ain't talking about YouTube.
you said at
You
their
know,
feet.
I
You
sat at their
actually,
feet. That's right. I sat at their feet. I could call Dr. Small, Professor Small, right now. I wouldn't call Dr. Jeffries. He's not doing too well, but I can always have a
but
discussion with Dr. Jeffries.
how is Dr. Jeffries by chance? Like,
He's getting older. He's becoming
um,
even more of a seasoned elder. I'll say that. You know, people might say, "Oh, Dr. J." Dr. J is doing what all elders do. He's
the
becoming a little older. You know what I mean? But it's up to us to be able to concisely do the necessary work. See, my job after Dr. Clark and Dr. Ben and all those individuals, my job is to understand how we can take this information that they've always incessantly taught us about and putting that into our organization. See, that's what we miss. It was a sister, I went to an Obatala ceremony a couple of years back, and it's a sister, she's a poet, and she's married to really one of the most famous poets in Brooklyn. I forget the brother's name, man, but he's a thorough dude. He's the Rakim of poetry 20 years earlier. And the sister said that was the part that Dr. Ben and Dr. Clark and those missed. They missed the part of the spirituality where we understood how spirituality was from within. And so when we're talking about traditional African spiritual systems, whether it be Ifa, Orisha, whether it be the Akan, whether it be all those spiritual systems, that we learn that those Orishas are all encompassing. We encompass all of those systems. We encompass them all, you know. So I become Ifa, you know, or you become Yemiya, you become Ogun, and getting to the point where you understand that. And that is transformed through what we call your Ori or your head, taking care of your head and becoming that. And so when we study history, we become that. We become that elder. I become Dr. Clark, you know, and taking that information and do what we need to do in order to get these children in line, to get these boys and girls in line so they can do better than us. See, the thing is, the end of the game, we ain't going to be here to see it. We're
yeah,
not going to be here to see it, but we have to work on it. And we can't always run on this doomsday conclusion. We have to get to a point where whatever we do, we realize it's not for us. And what I do is for Taji, Makeda, Adelani, and Amari Adewale. That's who I'm living for, right? And I give them the tools that they need to understand what needs to be done next. So again, Lou, I appreciate you for having me on this platform, man. This is a godsend. Thank you to
um,
anybody listening. If they got any questions, I'm open.
what is African Echoes plan on doing soon? Like, they got
Um,
any
um,
lectures coming up?
I don't know, but I'm about to press up on trust, and we
Okay.
need to have a lecture coming. And when we do, you'll be the first to know, and
All right.
maybe you can get it streaming on your
Yeah, because
platform. Do it that way.
because of my work schedule, I missed the last one with Professor James Smalls, where
Yeah,
you
that was
had
a
me.
really good one too. Matter of fact, you know what? I'm gonna try to get you a copy of that lecture too. I'll get you a
Oh,
copy of it.
okay.
All right, it was good.
Uh,
It was
uh,
a good lecture too.
does anybody here in the audience by chance have a question they'd like to ask? I put the link. Just hit the link and come up. If not, I guess we'll be
And then you know what too? If you got any questions, listen, I'm open for them the next time. You know, you can present the question
Yeah, put
for
in
the
the
next time
comments.
and put in the
Yeah.
comment. It's all good, man. But I appreciate those who did feel it was important enough to check out. I hope that I didn't disappoint you, and I hope that I answered a lot of your questions. Whatever questions I couldn't answer, just feel free to. You can always hit me up. Also, I'm Gully Black
Oh,
on Instagram and Twitter. And as a matter of
type
fact,
that
I'm
type
also
that in the comments. Type it in the comments. Oh, I was looking for your digital diaspora um YouTube channel. I could not find it because I wanted to
really
link it in. Send
okay.
that
So
to
yeah,
me. Send that to me after the stream, and I'll put it in. Edit
okay.
it in.
All right,
I'll
absolutely.
link
Hold on,
everything up.
I'll put my handle on Twitter, also known as X. And
Yeah.
matter of fact, Twitter, and I'm Gully Black on Twitter, and what's that? Instagram. Instagram. Yep. I'm that on both of those mediums. And anything I got, matter of fact, I'm Gully Black on Fanbase and Blue Sky as well too. On all platforms, I'm Gully Black.
And you know what? Uh-oh. Did he drop out? Oh God. Let's see, private chat. Hold on.
Oh,
Yo.
yeah, my bad. I'm steady typing what I'm supposed to do, and I pick myself off. But yeah, man, I'm good, man. So listen, it was a pleasure. I appreciate you, and I appreciate you allowing me to get on your platform and go through that interview. I'm glad I went through that interview again, man. That was a textbook interview, man. I loved it. I loved it.
Yeah, yeah. I was gonna record it, but right now I'm struggle streaming. I gotta re-up my subscription to StreamYard, so I'm gonna pay that when I get paid. So right now, I'm struggling to struggle streaming. So I don't got all the great graphics that comes with the upgrade. So
Man,
but
listen, you do what you can. Listen, it all takes time, and that's why I said, listen, I can do this every Monday. We got lost in translation on the time. But what we can do, we do this every Monday, man. We can just have a
yeah,
different topic. And
yeah. And you gotta let me know when you get that thing situated with your desktop so we could stream
yeah,
off of both your platform and mine.
that's cool. That's what we'll do.
All
All right.
right.
All right, listen, man, it's been a pleasure. And thanks for everybody that took the time out to check this out. Send me a copy of it too, brother.
All right.
Talk to you soon.
Peace.
Peace.
That's basically it. Anybody want to come up and chop it up for a moment? If not, I'm gonna end the stream. I put the link in the comments section. Boom. I guess nobody coming up. Gonna end this. I'm Louis Conyer and I'm out. Let me play this.